Can you really tell the story of a person's career just by looking at their official files? I mean, no interviews, no stories from coworkers, just a box of old government forms, awards, and memos. What kind of person really emerges from that paper trail? Well, today we're going to find out. Let's open the box and piece together the career of one Donald D. Marsh, using only the documents he left behind. So here's the journey we're going to take. First, we'll look at what this paper trail actually is. Then we'll see how he forged a reputation back in the 70s and how he kept that standard of excellence up under pressure in the 80s. Then we get to a real test of leadership, and finally we'll see his work as a senior engineer on some pretty critical national projects. So what's the real story hiding in plain sight here? You know, inside all these bureaucratic forms, these typed-out memos, and official-looking awards, can black and white text really capture the full picture of a professional life? Let's see. And this slide, this really gets to the heart of it. On one side, you have the big, fancy, almost calligraphic award certificate. That's the career highlight you'd frame and put on the wall. And on the other side, the dense, checkbox-filled performance review. This is the day-to-day grind, the routine evaluation. You absolutely need both to tell the whole story. Okay, let's start at the beginning of the trail, back in the late 1970s. This is where the foundation of his career is being laid, where we see the very first official impressions of Don Marsh being put down on paper. Wow, look at this timeline. It doesn't take long for a pattern to show up, does it? In just about a year, you see a promotion that's directly tied to outstanding performance, then a formal award for his work on a weapons system, and then another major commendation for juggling 4 different high-level tasks at once. He was clearly making an impact, and fast. And that 1979 commendation, it came with something tangible, a $300 Special Act Award. Now, I know that might not sound like a whole lot of money today, but back then, for a government employee, that was a pretty significant bonus. It was a clear signal that his bosses saw his contributions as being truly above and beyond. And what's really crucial here is what they chose to praise. It wasn't just his technical chops. Right from the very beginning, his file is highlighting these critical soft skills: communication, tact, diplomacy, and being able to handle new situations under pressure. These are the qualities that put a career on the fast track. All right, let's jump forward into the 1980s and see how this story builds. He's established this reputation for being a high performer, but does he keep it up? Well, the paper trail gets even clearer on this point as we move from these one-off awards to his consistent, year-after-year evaluations. I mean, just look at this performance review from 1985. It is a sea of check marks in the highest possible columns. Quality of work, exceptional. Cooperation, very cooperative. Dependability, extremely reliable. Initiative, outstanding. The documents don't just say he's good, they systematically prove it, rating him at the absolute top of the scale. And here's the human voice behind all those checkboxes. His supervisor's comments in that same review, they go beyond just rating his output. They speak to his character: dedicated, loyal, hardworking, mature. The paper trail is building a picture of not just a skilled engineer, but a truly model employee. And this wasn't just a one-time thing with one friendly boss. Here we have appraisals from 82 and 84. The ratings are always exceeded and outstanding. The descriptions, they're all variations on the same theme. He exceeds standards, he's a self-starter, he's a significant asset. A clear, undeniable pattern of high performance is just cemented in the official record. But you know, a career isn't just about glowing reviews. Sometimes the most revealing documents are about the moments when things go wrong. And in November 1985, we find a memo written by Don Marsh himself that details a crisis, a real test, not of his technical skills, but of his leadership and his character. The memo lays out the situation in pretty stark detail. An employee is having a serious breakdown, and he's causing major property damage. Marsh is the supervisor on site, and this lands squarely in his lap. I mean, this is a volatile, unpredictable scenario that is way outside the bounds of a normal workday. So how does he handle it? It's direct, it's firm, and it is incredibly professional. He doesn't make it personal. Instead, he calmly connects this unacceptable behavior back to the demands and the standards of their mission. He draws a really clear boundary, but it's based on professional requirements, not emotion. And here's the resolution. He de-escalates a really tense situation with his calm authority. I held my ground. And then he sees the process through to the absolute end, personally making sure the employee is on a plane home. This single 2-page memo tells us more about his leadership under pressure than any fancy award ever could. Okay, so the final chapter we can assemble from these files takes us to the absolute peak of his career. By the late 80s and early 90s, Marsh is a senior engineer, and the documents show him right at the heart of some of the nation's most complex and high-stakes defense projects. The names on this slide, it reads like a who's who of the Strategic Defense Initiative, the whole Star Wars program. HDI, IRIS, Brilliant Pebbles. These were not small-time projects. He was chairing safety committees, defining test scenarios, leading contract evaluations for programs at the absolute cutting edge of military tech. The paper trail makes it very clear his expertise was in high demand. And even at this senior level, with all this immense responsibility, the official record remains unbroken. His 1989 performance evaluation, which covers all that critical SDI work, lands on the exact same final rating we've seen again and again: exceptional. The consistency from his first few years to the peak of his career is just remarkable. And this quote from his 1989 supervisor just perfectly sums up the professional he'd become. A self-starter, needs very little supervision, flawless communication. This is basically the paper trail equivalent of a standing ovation. It describes an employee who isn't just getting the job done, but someone who makes the entire organization run better just by being there. So we come back to where we started. What story does this paper trail really tell? Well, it tells a story of consistent, undeniable excellence, of technical skill that was matched by diplomacy, and of quiet, steady leadership right in a moment of crisis. It shows that even in the sterile language of bureaucracy, a really powerful story of dedication and character can be written, one form at a time. It makes you wonder, right? How many other extraordinary careers are just sitting in a box, waiting for someone to read between the lines?